I've tried this so many times, I've lost count. We'll see how it goes this time. So I'm Heather Carey. I'm your instructor for ESSI 303. I'm going to try to record the second half of class. Um, so first of all, please complete the teacher matrix so that we can review next week when you come to class. And you can complete the assignment within the module if you want to, or within the assignments, but you don't have to. I like to give you options. You can just come and we'll answer the questions in class, and then you'll get full credit. So let me skip down here. We talked about why it's so important to know your different teaching style and your learning style. We talked about learner characteristics and student characteristics. We need to know that students have disabilities, but they're more like their general education students than anybody else, because remember, they are general education students first. We want to become very familiar with that person first language. And I'll show you a little bit about that in just a few minutes. Last night, we went over framing the objective. What makes a classroom diverse? What do you want to know about your students and what tools are already in your toolbox? As you pick a lesson for this class, you're really going to be using these questions that we went over in class last night. So make sure that you find a pre-made lesson that you can differentiate throughout this entire course. You'll be working on one lesson for the course for your key assignment, and then whatever you're doing within your field experience. Those are two completely separate assignments. This is that diversity profile, those questions that you should be able to answer about your classroom. Remember, we talked about you may not be able to answer them on the first day. So those tools for discovering student characteristics. What kind of data do we need to know about our students? Remember, when we're getting data for our students, we need to think about, why do I need this data and what am I going to do with the data? So we might look at their CUME files. Sometimes we can see their grades. We can see their attendance. Sometimes they had behavior contracts, but what are we going to do with that? We can look at their IEPs. What goals did they have? Did they meet their goals? So we want to know, what are we going to do with that? And then surveys, teacher surveys, student surveys. And how are we going to share that information? Google Docs, emails. Make sure that you mark it that is confidential, and then only share it with those that have a vested interest. We don't want to share it with those that don't have anybody, that is going to be working with that student. Some surveys or learning styles, the VAKT is that visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile. So when we think about the visual, those students learn through images, diagrams, visual aids. So graphic organizers are good for these learners. Auditory, they learn through spoken information, discussions, and lectures. Kinesthetic, learning through hands-on activities and movement. A lot of times I would have those lessons where I would have agree, disagree, undecided, where I'd have students get up and move, and then they would talk, and then students can move again. Tactile, learning through touch and physical interaction with materials. Sometimes students have more than one. So that's just a very helpful way to know about their learning styles. Memletics, if you pull up Memletics, there is an inventory that you can give students, and it will tell you where they fall. Now, you wouldn't want to do that with a first grade, second grade. It's a pretty lengthy questionnaire. Gardeners, most of you probably heard about gardeners before. It's pretty common. Is that linguistic, where they sensitivity to spoken and written language, logical, mathematical. They analyze problems logically, spatial, a capacity to think in 3 dimensions, musical, skill and performance, composition. So if they're working on projects, you can really put these in there. Bodily kinesthetic, using one's body to solve problems. I think of math when I did class activities where you'd have the students arrange themselves. Interpersonal, ability to understand and interact effectively with others. Intrapersonal, capacity to understand oneself and one's thoughts and feelings. And naturalistic, ability to recognize and categorize plants and animals. I did some of those activities in science where we would go outside and find where something is. So there's lots of different things like this. I know I had printed within my classroom. But then because it would help me remember to add different things in my lessons to make sure that I had all the different categories covered. Spin profiles, we're going to be working on that. My next move is something that you can get going for students so that you can see what job that you're going to have for them. So it's probably more upper middle school and then high school students, and how much they're going to make, what kind of education or training they're going to need. So observations, you want to think about why you're going to observe them. What are you going to do with that information? As a consultant, I do some time on task and attention span. So when I do those, I usually do it for a 30-second interval, and then I compare them to their same age classmate. Every 30 seconds, I'll either put a plus or a minus by each of the names, and then I'll come up with a percentage. And then you can also do those distractors and distractions. Is there noise? Is it the lighting in the classroom? Is it movement in the classroom? There's all those different things, but you really have to think about the purpose. Interviews. Who are you going to interview? What are you going to do with the information? I always compare it to see if the parents, the students, the teachers, if they're in line. A lot of times when I do my revals, all that information is lined up. I always interview all 3 people. Maps, you can do this right online. What is the student's story, their dreams, their fears, their nightmares, their gifts, their strengths, interests, preferences, talents, their needs. So those are all right online. So here is the avoidable disability spread. So our students are a person first and their disability second. So if I would put this in light of me, I'm Heather Carey. My strengths are that I like to cook, bake, garden, read. I know that I am a hands-on learner, but my disability is that I have fibromyalgia and Hashimoto's. But I don't let my disability overtake my other abilities. So then when it starts to spread into our world, or what we do, then the person comes second. So that means they describe their disability before their person, and we really want to avoid that. So when we describe this student, we want to talk about them in person first language. And so what are their strengths, their preference, their interests, their needs? So what tools can you add to your differentiation toolkit? I changed that assignment to next week so that everybody can just share out, because I want you to learn from one another. I don't want that just to be something that you submit and don't get anything from. I usually have you guys share things and then I throw them into a Google Doc. So learners spin. Okay, so this is where in class, what you guys will have to do, one of your assignments is it's called the case study analysis. And for the case study, you have to look at Heather James, Vincent Langley, Gabrielle Zambrano, and Patrick King. So Heather has intellectual disabilities. We have Vincent with learning disabilities. Gabrielle is an ELL. Patrick is talented and gifted. And you have to read about them, okay? But then you have to choose one other student. These 5 students will be who you're going to work with the whole time, the rest of the class. So you can do it bulleted. You can create this in a chart. You are going to write their strengths, preference, interest, needs, hopes, and concerns. I really wouldn't do a paragraph except for hopes and concerns, but you could do those bulleted as well. Okay. And all of them are in here, but they are also in your PowerPoint. So we have it differentiated so you can either listen to it or you can read about it, whichever one you want. So if you go into your PowerPoint, you can listen to about each student or you can read about it, okay? Whichever one you want to do. Then when you submit it, I would make a copy of it for yourself because you'll use this throughout the entire course. So when we look at the rubric, you want to clearly list all 5 students because you have to use those top 4 and then choose one on your own. The spin analysis is thorough, it's insightful, and clearly bulleted. I don't care if it's bulleted. I don't care if you want to put it into a graph. I don't care. Whatever's best for you. You need to have their strengths, preference, interests, needs, their hopes and concerns, and then I'll look at the writing and mechanics. So run it through either your Microsoft program or run it through Grammarly, whatever is best for you. Okay. Then you had an assignment due yesterday. Your co-teaching side trip 1. You were asked to complete a teaching style inventory, and you didn't have to have that done to complete this assignment. We're going to look at co-teaching. We're going to focus on considerations you should make when developing your co-teaching partnership. We're going to look at lesson planning, working directly with students, and your teaching style. So you need to think about your instructional philosophies, your classroom expectations, your roles and readiness to share content, your roles and readiness to support learning strategies. The reflection focuses on readiness to consider personalities and potential for conflict of personalities. You may not know much about co-teaching yet, and that's okay, but we want you to be a reflective practitioner, so you can look them up online. We're going to start with a basic understanding and what it is and what it is not. So here's 2 articles. This share article already has a reference on the bottom, and then you'll need to answer these 4 questions. On this one, you are not required to respond to your classmates. I will show you, if you go to the 3 dots here on the right and click on them and show rubric, then that's what you'll follow. Teaching style explanation clearly identifies desired co-teaching style, and it has to be well-adjusted, justified reasoning. Understanding of co-teaching. Tell me about co-teaching philosophy, shared responsibilities, reflection on personal readiness. You can't just say, I'm not ready or I'm ready. Tell me why. How will you support learning strategies? Expression of co-teaching views. Why are you worried? What do you know about it? And then your writing and mechanics and your APA formatting. So you have to have some type of reference and in-text citations because we expect you to be a reflective practitioner. And then the other one was your discussion 1.2, rationale for differentiation. So there is a PowerPoint here, the 5 rationale, and then here are the in-task standards. So the 5 rationale are here, the in-task standards are here. We want you to compare the rationale and the standards in order to relate the standards to various rationales and discuss how differentiation is reflected in our professional practice. Okay, so when you do that, we want you to look at the rubric. Thoroughly compare and relate all 5 rationale for differentiation to standards. So which ones can relate to each other? Demonstrate a deep understanding of how differentiation is reflected in professional practice. Discuss how differentiation is integrated into teaching practice with specific examples tied to rationale and standards. Respond to at least 2 classmates by Sunday. Then you're writing in your APA. So you can cite this, and you can cite it right within your Microsoft document by going to Cite, and you can do it right in there. I tried to show within class, and it kicks me out every time. So it doesn't like me to do that. If need be, I can create a separate video, or you can pull up one on YouTube. Then Sunday, your introduction about yourself is due. I already went over the case study analysis. And then you have your field assignment validation due on Tuesday. So just tell me about the name of your school. When did you make contact with your mentor teacher? Your intended schedule to complete your assigned hours? Have you reviewed the responsibilities of the teacher candidate? Please review this module. Do you have any additional questions? I do want to show you, I didn't get to show you the guys this last night. If you complete some of your field experience hours early, please notice all the field experience hours are at the bottom of every module. So here's field experience 1. There's field experience 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. They're at the bottom of every module. I finally got it all recorded. If you have any questions, please email me. If you want to set up office hours for Monday night, I love to meet with my students. Otherwise, I will see you next Thursday. Have a great week.